Tangle friends, my name is Annie Reiser. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher and a certified botanical illustrator, and I'd like to welcome you to today's tutorial on Mooka star. I decided to do a star because stars are just always wonderful to have around the holidays. They can go both for Christians, you could have them as a star at Hanukkah. Stars are just a beautiful, wonderful symbol in any culture. So let's go ahead and work on this one, and I will show you how it evolved. We have a little business. It's called bowtangle.net, and it's an arts and crafts business in which we laser our products on wood and leather with my designs or photos from my husband or maps that my daughter creates files for. And this particular one is an ornament that we do, and it is with my own design. I call it a Mooka star for obvious reasons. Those of you who know Zentangle know that that's the Mooka pattern, right? So this is what it looks like. I actually did draw this, and we're going to put this now in a project on paper so that you can do whatever you want with it. You can make a card out of it. You can cut it out and make it into one of those 3D stars. CZT Barbara Langston has a wonderful tutorial on a Zentangle star, and you could look at that for inspiration as well. So I'm going to go ahead. These are some of the materials we're going to be using today, and I'll just talk about them as we go rather than list them all up front. I will have a list of what I'm using in our description. So what I'm going to do is just start with my Zendala from Zentangle. And it happens to be exactly the size almost of my star. That wasn't intentional, it just happens to be that way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just trace my star, and you can get free templates of stars all over online. They're not hard to get. You can maybe if you have a star that's physical, you can trace it yourself. This one is a little bit more than it's about 4 inches across from here to here. So it does fit perfectly onto a Zendala. You can use any paper you want. You can use hot press watercolor paper. You can use a mixed media paper. And in fact, I want to show you, I do have my journal here. I did put some of these stars in gold on the black, which is beautiful. I'm not finished with this yet, and I haven't really even shaded them, but it's a fun variation. Okay, so let's just go ahead and trace this. I'm going to go right with my pen. So this is based on Zentangle headquarters, Maria's Mooka. And Mooka is one of my top 3 favorite tangles. Definitely. I'm still wavering between it being number 1 and whatever else. I just love Mooka. And I do it all the time in so many different ways and in different projects. This one is kind of a truncated Mooka because we're not going to do the actual whole Mooka pod or frond. Let me show you what I mean by that. I have a piece of paper here in my sketchbook, and I'm going to show you that we normally do Mooka like this. Starting at the bottom, come around and do that frond top. can keep on going. It's basically a Mobius strip. So that's an infurling Mooka. And then Maria does the, you can vary your Mooka frond at the top to where it's almost not even a bulbous shape. Do you see how you can infinitely spiral in? And that's that Mobius strip Mooka, meaning that there is no beginning and there's no end to it. So it's a little tricky to work backgrounds around that. But we're going to kind of truncate our Mooka in this case. So I'm going to have my little star right in front of me looking at it so I can kind of see where I'm going and what I'm going to do. I'm not necessarily going to do the exact same star, just using it as an inspiration. And first I'm going to go ahead and aura all the way around the star. Okay, so it's good enough. Now we're going to go ahead and start our frond. So these are going to be kind of truncated Mookas, meaning they're not going to be infurling or outfurling into that Mobius strip. We're just going to do a bunch of pretty swirls, basically. And I do like to start at the bottom. So it was really important for me to always connect. I'll show you what I mean. I always had a connection on the actual frame of the star for me to be able to laser it out and not lose the design, right, when I picked it up off the laser. So that's kind of why I always go from side to side. Okay, let's see. Let's go. Now, I did not go from the bottom this time, but that's okay. This is a pretty big star. You have to have a steady hand for this. And then, just like with the Halaba effect, whenever I come to a line that's already given, I'm going to draw underneath or behind that line. So we get that overlap, that beautiful overlap. Oh, where am I going to go this time? Let's go from here. Underneath, and we can pretend we know what's going on there. Let's see, I did one going like this. So this is really fun. You can compose as you go, just like with our project from last week. Just take a moment to look and see where you need to fill in some gaps. I'm going to go from here. It's good to look ahead to where you're going to land. I knew I wanted to meet that fern frond up there, so I had my eye kind of trained to that spot. This one, I think I'm going to carry this along. Definitely need something going on over here. And don't worry about that because we're going to be coloring that in gold and you won't even see that join. And if, you know, this is more Zentangle inspired art, so if you feel like you need to do this in pencil, go for it. That way you can erase it and get it just how you want. I'm always like pro Zentangle style of just going on it with my ink first time around. And you can, of course, vary how much you want to have there. So this one has quite a few Mookas in it. And I have to show you my very first one that I was working up for this project. So this was my very first Mooka star. And what Maria often does is in that large space, she will put these basically kind of inner auras that parallel the lines that are already there. And that makes for a pretty lacy look. This one that we're doing is more like this, and that we're not going to leave the aura. I decided I like that look. This one does have the auras around it, which is pretty too. But since I'm going to go for the more solid look, I'm going to fill in these areas more densely so that I don't have so much of the red showing through, but a lot of the gold Mooka. And you can vary the size of your fronds, of course, that's fun. And even the amount of your thickness of your stem. This is a demo, so I'm not thinking about this as much as maybe I would if I were trying to make a card or a pretty ornament like I did on the other one. I had to really sit and think about it. I'm being a little bit more Zentangly about this, and then I'm just going for it. Okay, I think maybe I'll just do a little frond coming out here. So there's the first step. And now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the background with my red. So what I'm using is just basically first a red micron pen. I'm taking my 03 so it goes a little faster to fill in those areas. Actually, if you had an 05, that'd be even better. And when I'm coloring in this background, I do try to be mindful about saturating the whole area, not leaving those little white specks. Even though we are going to be color layering this somewhat with some colored pencil on top. So that should actually take care of that. This coloring in lends for a lot of stress relief and just Zen flow. It's wonderful just to mindlessly color something without thinking too much, and then getting such beautiful results at the end. So that lovely task is done. I'm almost sad because it's just so much fun to color. Then we're going to color in the Mooka fronds, but you can see this already is kind of a very pretty star on its own. The white and the red, very Swedish in its style. But, and it's very graphic, very flat. Compared to this, I really think this is stunning, and I want to show you how I get there. So first of all, I am going to use my gold Jelly Roll pen and just ink out all of those fronds. One of the things I do love to use, which would work really well on this project, is my Fine Tech watercolor paints. They're quite opaque, very, very shimmery, very gold-like. But for demonstration purposes, this works fastest and is easiest. But if you're going to do a really seriously beautiful piece, you might want to consider using those fine techs with a paintbrush. I love the fine techs too because the gold assortment is, there's so many to choose from. Even though they're gold, there's like a pale gold and a white gold and a really rich, almost bronzy gold. You can also get other metallics, bronze, silver. I thought this star would be so stunning with the blue background and the silver Mookas. Or the gold. Blue and gold is beautiful. And here is where you can adjust a little bit. For example, this is a little bit thin, so I'm going to just thicken it with my gold and then go back over with my black pen to show which frond is going over and which is coming under. So you can clean up a little bit. And always be mindful that this is a Jelly Roll pen, and I think you can kind of see how it's reflecting the light here, showing its wet sheen, which means it's basically wet paint and you don't want to drag your hand through it. I'll let the inside dry so that those little spots where I need to add another coat will be very obvious. I gotta let it dry, and while I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and ink out the outside of the star. Okay, I'm back and everything is dry now. Pretty well covered. I had to do two coats of that prime, or of the Jelly Roll. So before you do what I'm going to do next, you must make sure that you've let everything dry sufficiently because we're going to go on here with colored pencil and you don't want to smear it and you don't want to have a wet piece of paper that will then just get mangled in the process if you don't let it dry first. So let's start with the inside shading. What I want to do is take my PC, my Prismacolor 923, it's Scarlet Lake, and I'm just going to go over all of these very quickly to really solidify the color, that beautiful bright red, and make sure there are no little white specks showing through. So in order to get the look that I showed you that we're going for, you can't just stop here. That would be very flat, very graphic. I mean, of course you can if that's the look you're going for. But I always like to layer things up to get a rich looking finished product. And I never take like one colored pencil out of the box and use it and call it done. And actually, I have to say, I really like working with colored pencil on top of that ink. It makes for a nice background, very much like watercolor. If you do an undercoat of watercolor and then go back on top of it with colored pencil, it's a similar feel. Always remember that when you're using a colored pencil, you want to have a very sharp point so that you get into the tooth of the paper and that you don't have to press so hard. If you have a sharp point, you can get the same effect without pressing. All right, so that's first layer is finished. Now I'm gonna go on here with my second layer of red, and the red is actually black cherry. It's one of my favorite Prismacolors. It's 1078. And what we're going to do is just shade where the interstices are, kind of all around that area, because it's going to lift the gold up off of the background. So it kind of looks like it's a gold filigree brooch sitting atop a red velvet. It just gives it 3-dimension and so much interest. I really like to get into the corners. Always saving out your highlight. And you don't have to do the whole everything around, but you want to especially concentrate on those frond tops. Your eye does a lot of filling in, so I'm trying to stay pretty much on the right hand side of these interstices, but I do go in around the frond. To see how that's so much more sculptural than like this area here where I don't have anything. So that's the look we're looking for. And where the frame meets the piece, I also put some shading there. I think that's good. Good enough. So now we want to shade our fronds, right? You could just leave it like this, nice and bright, and it does look very pretty as it is, and it's already pretty sculptural and 3D. But if you take a look at the difference, here's this one. It looks a bit like this is aged or tarnished. Looks very antique-y. So if you want that look, then you're going to want to go in and shade here. We can start out with, I've got this brown ochre Let me see if I can see that at all. It's kind of hard to see in here under the lights. It's not showing up very well. So I'm going to go to my raw umber. This is a Carandache. And yeah, so that one's definitely working. You see how it's just giving it enough to make the frond very spherical. And very important, just like with Halaba, all of these fronds are crossing over, right? We have this one on top of this one, etc. To show that atmospheric perspective, we're going to add some shading. That means that we're putting air between this frond stem and this one. Looks like there's some atmosphere in between. So this is just like when we shade Halaba. And you don't even really need to do it on every single one, because like I say all the time, your eye fills in and kind of sees that for you. But it helps you read which of these filigreed stems is on top of the other. So I would say, in any case, if you decide not to shade the frond, you should definitely shade these Halaba stems. You'll have to play around with what works best for your shading on top of the gold. Everybody has a different gold preferred pen. I mean, I have a couple different ones, and they'll all shade up differently. So you'll want to just try it out. And let me tell you, if you absolutely hate your shading when you're done with it and you go, oh, that's too dark, I hate it, just take an eraser and take it off. The gold is very slick, and so the pencil, color pencil, it comes right off if you use a nice plastic eraser. We use these erasers in our Botanical Illustrator program that I absolutely love. They're called Vanish. So take a look if you can find those. And then there's just one last step. That is to go back and give your piece some love, as Maria would say. And by that I mean you're going to want to go and maybe restate some lines that have gotten lost. For example, this line got lost here. That's a PN, so it's kind of big. Can't tell who's crossing over where here, so I'm going to bring that down. And I just sort of made a little bit of a mistake, but that's not a problem. I'll just fill that in with the red here. Get some more of my black cherry. Yeah, so I will go around and do some of that finessing. And for example here, the frame kind of got lost. You have to take your time, look at it. All right, I think I can call that finished. And I hope that you'll join me again for another maybe holiday project next time. And look forward to tangling with you then. Bye-bye now. That's it for today's Tangle. Thanks for joining me. If you like these lunchtime tutorials, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also invite you to check out my website for classes that I have scheduled or to purchase my Tangle tags for your favorite step outs. That's bowtangle.net. I'm leaving you with some other links too. Zentangle.com, where you can learn more about the Zentangle method from its founders, Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas. You can also visit their store there for a multitude of Zentangle paper tiles, tools, books, and kits. TanglePatterns.com is that site I talk about where you can explore hundreds of Tangle patterns, read about them, and get the step out which is basically the deconstruction of the pattern. And finally, if you'd like to share your beautiful results with me and my student community, please join Annie's Bowtangle Alumni Facebook page. We're a private group where we inspire each other with our work and offer tips and useful information about art and Zentangle.